You see, this is why I don't go to church. Latest entry in the Benoit Blanc Mysteries, Dead Man. No, I was going to say Dead Man Walking. Wake up, Dead Man! Ugh. If I was smart, I'd start over so I look professional. Why bother? So, I'm going to say up front, I'm going to tip my hand a bit. This is, I feel, the weakest of the three movies with this character, meaning Knives Out, Glass Onion, now this. I think this is the weakest one. It's still a good movie and a decent mystery. And I am going to talk about it on its own terms, but I am admittedly going to spend a chunk of this review explaining why it's not as good as the others, because that's kind of what my brain has been spending a lot of time doing. So those are the thoughts I need to expunge. But just talking about it as a film in and of itself. The shift in material away from the wealthy, because that was what the first two movies dealt with, to a different kind of strong influence. Because obviously, while wealth in our capitalist society is a incredibly potent method of influence, it is not the only one. So here we have religious influence. You have people engaging with it sincerely. You have people engaging with it out of desperation. You have people engaging with it because they don't know what else to do with their lives. You have people engaging with it because they think it could be a path to other things. So it is sort of treating it as a mechanism by which power can be attained. Some of the characters care about that. Some of them don't, at least in theory. So we have a classic locked door mystery where a seemingly impossible crime has happened. Somebody went into, I'm going to call it a room, basically a closet, by himself and died in there by somebody murdering him. How the heck does that work? So this movie spends the time figuring out how does that work. And Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig, shows up. I don't love his hair in this. The longer hair, don't love that as a look. But it's interesting because he clearly has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder in regards to religion. We get a little bit of a hint as to why that is. There's sort of some brief mentions of his mother being very devout, and one can imagine him being gay was probably a major point of tension between them, assuming she's even still alive. Who knows? I don't want to know. Like, I don't need those kind of details. They don't add anything more for me. I think the amount of detail we get accounts for the way that he behaves in this. As has been the case with all these movies. Very stacked cast. Josh Brolin, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, Adam Scott, Mila Kunis. Some people who I'm a little annoyed at for one reason or another, but look, they're good in the parts that they're given. Our protagonists, because it's worth noting in all three of these movies, Benoit Blanc is the detective, but he's not the protagonist. Protagonist of the first one was Marta. Protagonist of the second one was Helen. Protagonist of this one is Judd, the new young priest who has arrived at this parish. And I love Judd. I think he is phenomenal. He might honestly be my favorite protagonist out of the three. And I've loved all three of these characters. But I always get nervous when I see religion kind of taken up as a topic by something that has other things on its mind. Like, it's part of why I get nervous when I see religion get taken up in sci-fi stories or things like that, because I often feel like it is not dealt with fairly. Like, reminder, I myself am not religious. I wasn't even raised in a religion, but there's just closed-mindedness feels like the wrong word, but there's just a roteness to the way that I see religion depicted in a lot of media that I otherwise like, that just feels so dismissive, and like sometimes on purpose. Sometimes people are being deliberately disrespectful to religion as a concept or specific religions. And look, if you've got your own axe to grind and reasons to do it, I get that. I'm just probably not going to enjoy it. That's all, because it often can feel like writers either working out or expecting the audience to work out their own issues and trauma with religion without actually giving much justification within the story for it. It's often taken as a given, like, well, here's all the problems with religion, and we all know that. And I'm like, my relationship with religion is, I was gonna say it's complicated. It's not. My relationship is basically non-existent. My thoughts on religion are complicated. Let's go with that. But this is actually real respectful, and I think specifically because of the character of Father Judd. I think he is such a wonderful character to embody the positives, but also his presence isn't used to negate or pretend that the negatives, either from other characters or even within himself, don't also exist. So it doesn't take on, he as a character in the movie as a whole, don't take on Christian tones where it's like, because he believes he is cleansed. Like, no, he's a flawed man like anybody else. But this helps him, and he wants to find a way for it to help other people too. And he engages with it incredibly sincerely, even as other people around him don't. And I thought he was an absolutely phenomenal character. The mystery is, it's solid. It's too convoluted for its own good. And not in a, it doesn't make sense way. It tracks and I follow it. But in a, the mechanics of it are so complicated. The movie has to spend more time explaining the mechanics, so we get less time with the other characters. Because, and this is where I'm going to start comparing it a lot more to the other movies, this has the thinnest characterization of the supporting cast. Like, Judge is great. Benoit Blanc's always been great. The other characters, while all played perfectly well, are either stereotypical or just thin as characters. Like, there isn't a lot there. So, like, for comparison, I think the first Knives Out has possibly the best supporting cast in any murder mystery I've seen. Heck, in most movies I've seen. Because every single person there feels like a real, fully fleshed out person, even if we only get a few scenes with them. Everybody feels fully formed as an individual. Glass Onion has some characters like that, but there's a couple that kind of feel a little bit thinner, a little bit more superfluous. In that case, those being Catherine Hahn and Leslie Odom Jr.'s characters. And I'm having to name you the actors because I actually don't even remember the names of the characters. Oh, and the assistant to Birdie. Unfortunately, I didn't know that actress's name, or at least I don't have it memorized because I can't remember that character's name either. But those three are a little bit thin. But there were other characters who were more fully fleshed out and who kind of commanded your attention. You know, Miles Braun, Birdie, Duke. So it wasn't as fully formed for everybody the way that Knives Out was, but it still was pulling its weight. Here, really none of them. Honestly, I guess Father Wicks, Josh Brolin's character, he's the closest, but even he's a little bit thin. Martha Glenn Close's character is quite thin. Cy is real one note, real basic. The sheriff is just kind of there. She doesn't have the personality of like the cops in Knives Out did. And again, this isn't something I'd necessarily complain about were this not in a series with Knives Out and Glass Onion. Because in a lot of murder mysteries, especially ones with a decent size suspect pool, yeah, some of these characters are going to be pretty thin. I don't innately have a problem with that. Some of my favorite mystery stories have pretty thin characterization for a lot of the cast. That's not innately a problem, but it becomes one when you're part of a franchise and a series that doesn't have really thin characterization in its supporting cast. And I think that's kind of the big thing on this one that holds it back from even coming close. Like, I go back and forth on whether I like Knives Out or Glass Onion more. I think Knives Out is the most complete package, but like the sheer catharsis of Glass Onion means so much. The finale and the climax of that one are one of my favorites in film, period. So like those two battle it out for me as to which is my favorite. This one isn't even in that conversation. That having been said, it's still good. It's still clever. I think the beats that we get with Blanc, even though at a couple of points he does something, I'm like, why is he doing that? By the time we get to the end, I'm like, got it. Okay, I got it. So, and like I said, Judd as a character, he carries a lot. Like if we didn't have a protagonist as good as him, I would call this a massive step down. As such, I'm going to call it only a minor one because he's so good. So he kind of saves the movie in a lot of ways because, again, I described the actual mechanics of the murder and whatnot as being a bit too convoluted for the sake of the story. And here's what I mean by that. If you break down the actual schemes, the actual actions taken in either Glass Onion or Knives Out, they're actually pretty simple. They're pretty straightforward. It's complicated because of how many people are involved and the motivations of all those people, but the actual mechanics of the crimes are real straightforward. Once you kind of cut through the noise of all these suspects and all these people and what they want, and you get down to the heart of what happened, it's pretty simple. This is not. And while that's not a bad thing, some people really like mechanically complicated mysteries. I tend to prefer mechanically simple mysteries with complicated dynamics between characters, which is more of what the previous two movies did. And because this one has more complicated mechanics, that those characters just aren't quite there in the same way, which is a little bit of a shame. Still a good movie. Still glad I saw it. I don't know if I'll watch it again. I might at some point, but like if I feel the itch for these, I'm just almost exponentially more likely to pop in Glass Onion or Knives Out again. What can I tell you? Wake Up Dead Man! Still pretty good, but the other two are way better. It reminds me a little bit of what I said about the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie. Like it's a middling Guillermo del Toro movie, but that's still better than most movies. This is a middling Benoit Blanc mystery, but that's still better than most mysteries. So there you go. You seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lafula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Ulrich, Twilord, Mystic Shadow, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajoggle, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and shoutouts to some random folks from the lower tiers. Thanks to Callum Ray, Three Muppets in a Trench Coat, and Alex Fireheart. If you want to hear me thank you by name, you can check out the reward tiers on the Patreon. You guys were pretty good today. Thank you.